Okay, so you said 23 triplexes times 0.5. That's 11 and a half budgeted hours just for the maintenance, okay, per visit. So this would be if you figure this out, right? This is going to be times 36 visits. So that's going to be 414 budgeted hours over the year. We charge 80 an hour for residential lawn care. Okay. I don't think you charging 80 an hour is going to land you this contract.
I look a little pale,
No,
which
that's
may
okay. That's
may
okay.
just be me.
How are you? How are you,
Good.
man?
How are you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for
Good
thanks for
stuff.
jumping up on with the call with us, and yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I really appreciate you reaching out to me. I found you on YouTube a couple weeks ago, I guess, and it just feel like we connected. I just got started in the green industry about a month ago, I guess, but I really like the way that your business is set up, and that it's a faith-based business. I'm a Christian too, so that was really important to me and something I appreciate about your business and your videos. So
Yeah, that's awesome. Congratulations on starting your business and everything. That's super exciting.
thank you, I appreciate it.
So yeah, what can I help you out with today?
So, like I said, I just got started about a month ago. I'm only about 2 weeks into um, the actual work. The first couple weeks I spent kind of organizing the business, getting my LLC set up, and all of that stuff. So a bunch of back end stuff. But I wanted to have all of that organized and legit, I guess, before I actually got started. Um, so I've kind of been in the process of marketing, and I've got about a half a dozen regular mowing clients so far in the past couple weeks. So that's been going pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that pace. I work a regular 9 to 5 at this point, so I don't get to go out like all day and market like I would like to do. It's just kind of in the evenings whenever I have that availability. So it's a little slow, but I'm pretty pleased with the progress I've made so far. But this past week, I was out marketing in a neighborhood. We're doing like door hangers, some stuff that I'd got off of um, that I made online and had printed out. And we got about halfway through this subdivision and was talking to somebody there, and they mentioned that it was actually an HOA, and they had a contractor that they really weren't happy with, and they were going to be having a meeting in the next week or so to talk about getting rid of them and replacing them with a new landscaper. So he was like, "Hey, you came at a perfect time. We're trying to get bids now." So I'm really excited about it. I don't know if you can access your email right now. I just sent you an email that has like a picture of one of the buildings in the area to kind of give you an idea of the size of the lawn. They're pretty small, but the subdivision itself is large. It's a group of triplexes. There's 23 of them in this little subdivision. Um, so for me, getting started out, that's pretty big. I have one employee, and I'm thinking I might have to take on like another part-time employee, especially since I can't be available through the day with my regular job. Um, so I wanted, I guess, to get some advice from you about like how to kind of handle the bid, and then if I do end up getting it, just kind of some advice on practical advice, I guess, on how to handle that with my current setup.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm gonna go ahead and just share the screen real quick because I think this will be a good visual for anybody that's watching here.
Cool.
So let me go ahead and share this. All right, so I think they should be able to see that. All right, so yeah, these look like really nice triplexes. Okay,
Yeah.
so did they say like how? So it kind of looks like your basic kind of residential push mowing, right? Lawn.
Yeah.
Um, so this is awesome. This is really cool. How many triplexes did they say? You said a group of
There's
triplexes.
Yeah, there's 23. So like there's that one unit right that's kind of in the field right there, and there's 23 that are like that in this area.
Wow. Okay.
There are a few, like the picture that I take this from is like a cul-de-sac, and the cul-de-sac is empty, and then it kind of lines both sides of the street. So there's probably two or three kind of empty areas like that in there that would have a little bit more mowing, but it wouldn't be that much extra to do just riding.
Yeah.
Um,
Cool. All right. So a couple of things here. So you actually helped kind of prep me up because I actually have a commercial contract, one of our old ones, that I was going to pull up and kind of show you the way that we actually quote it. So I think the first thing is to figure out roughly how long each triplex is going to take. That's kind of
yeah,
step one, especially for mowing, right? So let me actually minimize this real quick. And then once you basically have that down, and you can probably base that off of like your current customers that you have. So if you've got, you said 6 customers right now, or
yep,
roughly,
mhm,
what you could do is basically, hopefully you're timing yourself on every property, whether it's manually or through your CRM.
yep,
You can kind of figure out and get a good estimate of like, okay, how long is each triplex going to take? So once you get that basically down for you, I'm going to actually share my screen again and show you literally a real commercial contract that we use. They are not our customer anymore because they sold the building, but I think this will be a good visual for you. I don't know if you can see this screen
yeah, I
here.
can.
Okay, cool. So basically what we do is we break down line items on what we're going to basically give to the customer. So I think step one is going to that HOA and figuring out like, hey, what do you want? And basically I can send this to you in an email. But basically this is our basic template. It includes mowing, which is lawn maintenance, weed control, ornamental shrub, basically trimming, tree trimming, bed maintenance, which is just like de-weeding flower beds. We also include for commercial annual installation, so of seasonal flats of flowers. So we install 4 flats of flowers twice a year up front generally. You may not need to do that for each triplex, depends on what they're wanting. Again, spring and fall cleanup, there's always going to be leaves. And then we do a spot treatment of ant control, which is this thing we kind of just throw in there. We're not really doing like regular ant treatments. It's kind of like a kind of a gimme, right? For
Hmm.
to help as a line item. But if we do see ants too, we have a bag that will spot treat on the truck. And then irrigation service. This is going to be your basically full service commercial contract. And we're not licensed in irrigation. You probably aren't either. But what they want to know is that you have a basic understanding of like setting the water sprinklers for what it's recommended. Or just checking them manually. Like we do once a year, we come out and we just run through each zone. It's really simple. You can watch a YouTube video on how to do it. Um, and just as long as like they're working. Now, if there's anything that's wrong, I immediately am like, hey, I'm not a licensed irrigator. You have to get another company out here to fix it. But if we hit a sprinkler head, we can definitely fix that too. So sorry, I didn't want to go. I think I'm going too deep into this stuff, but
No, you're fine.
basically what you'll want to do. So this is our pre-template. This is what we bring to them first, and we say, hey, this is normally what we offer. Pick and choose what you want. And a lot of them will say, well, you know what? I don't want any annuals. There's no place to put flowers. Great. We'll take that line item off. But they do have flower beds they need cleaned up. They do have shrubs that need to be trimmed. And then they do have mowing and weed control. Maybe you're not licensed in weed control yet. So you may want to take this line item off and just say, hey, we can offer the maintenance portion of it. But what you want to do is basically figure out how many visits is so on the commercial space, it's projected over 12 months. So what you want to do is figure out how many visits there's going to be in your market. How many months out of the year are you mowing? Is it going to be weekly? Is it going to be bi-weekly? And you basically want to kind of figure that out first. So that way you come up with how many visits you're going to have for each type of service. And then once you figure that out, it's really just comes down to, so let's just say, for example, so that picture that you showed me, just off the top of my head, I would say and I could be wrong on this, but each triplex is probably going to take maybe 30 minutes to mow.
Yeah,
Mow and weed eat, right? 30 minutes,
right.
just shooting from the hip. Um, and then let me pull a calculator up. So, how many triplexes are there?
23.
Okay, so 30 times, okay, hold on 1 second. So 30 converted to budget hours is going to be 0.5. So that's how many budgeted hours is it's going to be. So you said 30?
Yeah.
Okay, so times
I'm
30,
sorry. No, 23. Sorry.
23. I'm sorry, that was my fault. So times 0.5. So that's going to be 11 and a half budgeted hours. And this actually helps you break down to know how many people you need, right? Because
Mhm.
you're not going to be able to get all those triplexes done in one day unless you're working a 12-hour day, 13-hour day, which doesn't sound feasible. But what you could do is break this up over, let's say, maybe 4 days. So if you divide this by 4 and you have a part-time helper, well, now he's only working roughly 3 hours a day, you know?
Mhm.
Um,
So in your experience, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Um, I guess this would be a good question when I speak to like the HOA president, but um, in your experience, are they good with breaking it up over multiple days, or are they going to want the entire place done in a single day so that there's not like a difference?
So what we have found, that's a really good question. What we have found that is that commercial contracts and HOAs are typically way more laid back than residential customers.
Okay.
Residential customers are like, hey, I want to know what day you're going to be here each week, and I need an email when it rains and you're not here,
Yeah.
right? They want very hands-on stuff. What's great about and we have a handful of commercial clients, and literally there's times where if it's too wet, we'll just skip them 1 week. Like,
Mhm.
and I don't ever hear from them. They don't ever text me, call me, email me, hey, why aren't you here? They're just a business running their own business and wanting to make sure that overall the landscaping is up kept, over time.
So even
So
though this is like a residential, technically residential, because it's a subdivision, a homeowners with the homeowners association, you're still treating this like a commercial contract because I'm not dealing with the individual homeowners. I'm dealing with the HOA. Is that, am I reading that right?
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And
Okay.
so it's the HOA's responsibility to do that communication. Now, if you give them like, hey, we're going to break this up, or I mean, and you can maybe give them a range or do kind of a temperature check with them, but at the, I mean, you can maybe have set days to where like, hey, we're eligible, like this is what, and I would word it as in like showing that you kind of have that authority of like, hey, this is what we can do for our schedule. We can focus on your area Mondays through Wednesdays, right? So that way for them, they can focus for their residents of like 2 or 3 days out of the week. That's like, hey, we're going to get focused on for our lawn care versus just, hey, I'm going to show up any day of the week. Well, now some people have locked gates, some people are having parties, and et cetera, et cetera. But if you're able to give them some kind of time frame window, you just don't want to constrain yourself too much because there's weather involved, there is team members and employees involved that maybe are sick or don't show up, and
Hmm.
like at the end of the day, schedules get pushed back, right? So like but what we found for a lot of our commercial clients is they're really relaxed about that. They just want to make sure it's done. But I think it might be a little bit different when you're dealing with living quarters for the HOA. So yeah, I would definitely maybe check with them and see. I definitely would not give them 1 day or even 2 days. I would probably give myself more of some leeway there, and some grace for error because the truck's going to break down, equipment's going to not work 1 day, like yeah, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. So basically break that down into kind of the budgeted man hours. And so that kind of answers, I guess, another question is based on the services that they want from me. I'm going to estimate my man hours and then give them a total that way. Because right now, kind of the way that I've done it with residential is, it's pretty easy for me to look at a house and say it's going to take us 30 or 45 minutes. Here's my flat rate, and I know baked into that rate what kind of profit I'm making on it. So I wondered if I should approach this the same way and say, here's the flat rate um, per triplex in the development, or if that is just not a good way to handle it.
So you could, you definitely could. So here is what I have found. So, for example, um, let's say, let's see. Okay, so you said 23 triplexes times point five. That's 11 and a half budgeted hours just for the maintenance, okay, per visit. So this would be if you figure this out, right? This is going to be times 36 visits. So that's going to be 414 budget hours over the year. We charge 80 an hour for residential lawn care. Okay. I don't think you charging 80 an hour is going to land you this contract, just being honest, because commercial properties tend to have lower uh, dollar per hour, right?
Mhm.
I would say in our commercial space, I've seen it as low as like $45 an hour, just because of the economies of scale. You don't have to move your truck very much because you have triplex after triplex after triplex after triplex, to where in the residential space, you may be driving from this neighborhood 3 minutes down the road, 5 minutes down the road to this neighborhood. So we have to charge a premium price to cover for that wasted time of driving in between each properties. But when
Yeah.
you're talking in the commercial space, generally it's just cheaper. Okay. So like, yeah, I've seen it as low as 45. I think it depending on your overhead, that might be very, very slim on profit margins. I've seen it in 55s, 60 even. I think our commercial contracts were probably around $65 an hour, but the ones that we do are really like higher end. So like we do
Mhm.
like a bank in our local area that's more like a higher end bank. So it's not like a Dollar General, for example,
Mhm.
not knocking Dollar General or anything like that, but it's like, they're more of like a more cost effective store, to where the bank might be making more money and they can get charged kind of more premium price.
Gotcha.
But once you figure out that price of what you're comfortable with charging, um, then yeah, you would basically just let's just say, for example, let's just say $50 an hour. Um, whoa, okay, hold on, my math's way off.
That's a great profit.
Hang on, my math's way off. Wait, 11 and a half budget hours times 50. So that's $575
Mhm.
times 36. No, that's right. Wow, that's going to be a lot. That's going to be a lot. Um, yeah, that's $21,000 in just mowing. This is a big contract. This
Yeah.
is a really big contract. I think this will keep one guy busy 5 days a week. Just with, I mean, with, well, 11 and a half budget hours each week. Um, I mean, our guys are doing like like 6 budget hours right now just because it's so hot.
Mhm.
So that's really 2 full-time days with just the mowing aspect of it. When you
Right.
start putting in like trimming the bushes, I mean, there's 23 triplexes, right?
That's a
And
lot
then
of bushes.
flower bed cleanup. That's what I mean. Like this might be a full-time job, at least during the summer, for
Yeah.
one for basically one person. But that's basically what you want to do, right? Um, yeah, does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, definitely. So when I was talking, and I haven't gotten to talk to the HOA president yet, and I plan to get a lot more details from him, but um, the guy that I was talking to kind of goes to the board meetings and seemed to be pretty knowledgeable of it. And one of the complaints that they had was that the person that they had right now wasn't communicating with them good. It had been they're supposed to have weekly cuts, and it because it's Bermuda grass, it needs to be cut short and frequent. And it had been 3 weeks since the last cut, and then they finally came in and did it. Um, so I mean they are particular, but I think that it's more of the service aspect than the quality of the job that they're doing. Um, so that doesn't scare me too much. Um, As far as like weed control goes, I haven't even really delved into that at all, other than, some basic like, yeah, we can clean out that garden bed and throw down some preen, that sort of thing. Um, so he said that currently the contractor was subbing out the weed control aspect to True Green, but they still weren't happy with what was happening there. And I don't know if that's a reflection on True Green or the contractor for just not, um, or the landscaper rather, for just not communicating with True Green and saying, "Hey, these weeds are here. This needs to be sprayed." That I don't know what that relationship looks like really, but I'm imagining that I would have to do the same thing, is sub out the weed control aspects. I don't have any of that equipment or know-how. When you're subbing out work like that, am I basically going to give it at cost, or do I throw in like a percentage on top so that I make profit off of that as well? And if so, what do those percentages look like?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. So we've dealt with this quite a bit in the past. So the person that owns the contract for the HOA currently is probably not doing a good job at keeping up with True Green and like
Yeah,
communicating the issues.
that was my
Um,
thinking too.
Especially with him not having shown up in 3 weeks. I think that's normal for a commercial customer to call and be like, "Hey, why is nobody been here?
Right.
We just had a commercial company or commercial business not pay us for 3 weeks. So we've been put on pause. We put everything on pause, and we just showed up today, and it's pretty long. So I think that's normal. Typically, though, as long as you're there either each week or every other week, normally you don't really hear from the commercial customers.
Hmm.
We don't.
Yeah.
As long as you're doing a good job. But in the fact that in a scenario where you win this contract, what you'll want to do is outsource the uh, weed control to like a True Green or something like that. There's a couple things you can do. You can either do it no do it whatever they're going to charge you for. What I would do first is get a bid from True Green. I would just call them and say, "Hey, look, I'm about to win this well, yeah, I would get a bid from them and just say, "Hey, what is your range of what you think this is going to be?" And then they're going to give you a price, and that way you can figure out what your weed control price is going to be, whether it's
Hmm.
6 visits, 8 visits, 12 visits, right? Because they have different programs and things like that. But then that will get you your price, so that way you can actually quote it properly to the HOA. Now, generally, what people do is they'll increase that 10 to 15% to make to make a cost on that and to take home some profit, because at the end of the day, you're going to have to manage this. And if they're not keeping their word or doing a good job on the weed control, which is what a lot of people complain about, is the weed control, you're going to have to make those calls. Hey, I need you guys to send another rep out here and respray the weeds. It's not dying, blah, blah, blah. So that's going to take time and energy from you. So you want to definitely make sure that you're getting some kind of cut of 10, 15% of that increase. And then you would just bill that to the HOA for managing that
Hmm.
outsource.
Okay, cool. So, like I mentioned before, just kind of shifting gears to, I guess, some more practical questions. Um, I have one employee right now, and since I work a 9 to 5, like I'm out either doing quotes, marketing, or cutting grass in the evenings. And then he's kind of in a training right now, so we go together. And then um, he's a young guy and like working on getting his license. So probably within the next couple of weeks, he'll be trained up and able to go out on his own. Um, so uh, with regards to like hiring, I guess um, some of this will depend on if they want us to get it all done within a certain time frame, or if they're going to let us go over the course of a week. If they let us go like the course of a week, then I can just send that guy out there like every day to cut and or trim or do whatever he needs to do, and probably not have to hire anyone else. If they do want us to limit it to like 2 or 3 days, then I'd have to bring on another part-time employee. And I guess I'm kind of wondering, like, where is the equilibrium between being able to hire somebody and also give them enough hours that they're going to be satisfied and stay on with me.
So what we have found that works really well is when we're in this weird scenario, because we're actually in it right now with our second location. Um, we're actually trying to overhire right now, and what we found is it's a little scary doing that. But what we'll do is when we have an extra man, 1 or 2 days a week, what we'll do is we'll have them go out and just do door hangers and hand out flyers. So they start to become that marketing machine. So that way you don't necessarily have to do that. Um,
Yeah.
that has really really allowed us to really like because it's weird, right? You have to like really balance that. It's like you want to win that contract, but you also need to hire at the same time. But what if you don't get that contract? And it's like, you just obviously need to be able to move very quickly. So if you do get
Right.
that contract, um, I think honestly you might be okay of like because you can even I think the biggest thing is like figuring out just the communication aspects to that HOA. And you can map it out, right? Let's just say it's like four corners or it's all one line. You could say, hey, look, the first 1/3 of this will be on Monday and Tuesday. The next one will be Wednesday, Thursday. And then the last one will be either on Thursday or Friday. But ideally, and then they can communicate to their customers that like, hey, your group A, your group B, your group C, these are your days. So
Right.
like I think you can create some kind of win-win situation that like I would be willing to bet that they don't want to. There's a workaround that it doesn't need to be all done in one day. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think that's really like, I mean, we don't do our commercials in one day. I mean, we do
Yeah.
the mowing in one day, but like the next day we might be coming back to trim bushes
Because
or
for me to
weed.
do it in one day, I'd have to have like 3 or 4 guys and probably like multiples of my equipment, duplicating my equipment. Um, okay, that's a good answer for me. That kind of takes me to my other question, which is about equipment. One of the complaints that they had, at least with the one guy I talked to, was that they're coming in with like big equipment, and apparently when the development was done, it's pretty new. It's only about 2 years old. They didn't grade the ground right, so that's like there's lots of divots in the ground. It's kind of uneven. It's got nice grass, nice turf, but it's not very even itself. And so they're bringing in like big equipment and driving ruts into it and actually making it worse. Um, so just speaking from like an equipment aspect, what would be the best solution for that? I was kind of thinking like a small stand-on mower, like a 36-inch mower, no bigger than the yards are, so I have got that maneuverability, but it's not as like heavy as a zero turn. Does that sound like that's a good fit?
Wait, I'm not quite understanding what you're saying. So are you saying like who's bringing this big equipment in?
The guy that they have now, the landscaper that they have now, and so I'm wondering to kind of like satisfy that aspect of their objections to him, where he's bringing in this big equipment and kind of like driving ruts into the ground and stuff.
Hmm.
Should I go with smaller equipment that wouldn't do that, and if so, what type?
Yeah, so this is a really good question. What equipment do you have now?
Well, that's where this question is important to me because I'm probably going to have to go out and get something right now because I only have residential clients and I'm just getting started. I have regular riding lawn mowers and push mowers, and then of course trimmers and stuff. I don't actually have a zero turn or a stand-on mower, but I do have the cash flow to be able to get that, or cash access to be able to get that. I don't have any debt, and kind of been doing this with my own cash savings. So I still have some that I could be able to go and get that, is what I'm saying, if I need to.
Yeah, so you're doing a phenomenal job, debt free, paying all that stuff off. Really, really good. Um, um, the the triplex right now, do you know how much square footage one of the triplexes are?
No, I'd have to measure it off.
Okay, I would say if it's less than 8,000 turf square feet, um, for that triplex, and I would map it for you now, but I don't want people to see the address or whatever. But I would start off with that and figure out the square footage is, because if it's under 8,000 square feet, I think for one, I would not buy any big piece of equipment, zero turn ride on, until you have a signed contract
Mhm.
at all. Like I would not go out and buy bigger equipment until it's completely signed. And even then, I would say to see if you could get by without having to go out and buy a big zero turn or something like that. But and the reason I say that, but I don't know how big the square footage is, right? So like if it's like decently big, okay, you may need that equipment, but I wouldn't buy it until you have a signed copy saying that you're going to be there for the next 12 months, making $30,000 for the year,
Right.
you know, for that contract.
Yeah. Because I mean, the front yards are like, they're so tiny. I mean, you
It
could
looks
push
like
mow
it.
it in like,
Yeah.
10 minutes.
Right.
Um, so that part I'm not even that worried about. The backyards, I didn't want to go like snooping around since I wasn't invited and I was just marketing. So I didn't get to like really see the backyards good. But from what I could see, they were pretty small as well. And you can kind of see in the picture there, there's like a tree line that's pretty close. So I don't think it goes too far back there either. I'm hoping that there's no divisions in between the backyards, if that makes sense, because then I could just mow it like all at once. But I don't know what that's like.
Yeah, and there's a really big HOA by our house, and the HOA like mows the front lawns on them, and they don't even have zero turns. They're running 30-inch mowers, and they literally will just walk across each driveway and just mow lines. You know what I
Mm,
mean? Like
gotcha.
so, and they looked pretty small. So honestly, and then like when you get into the zero turns and the bigger stuff, like if it's even like remotely wet, like you said, it's gonna rub the lawns. Like we mow, like it'll rain like that night all the way up to like 5, and then we're mowing at like 10 o'clock in the morning because
Yeah.
we have 21-inch mowers. It's not rutting the lawn. Like if we had zero turns, we'd have to wait and all that stuff.
Are
So
they
I would try to
stand-on mowers or like self-propelled or?
for the mowers that we have,
Mhm.
we use the commercial Toro 21-inch mowers.
Okay.
Super basic. Good question. I think I've got maybe like 5 or 6 more minutes.
Mhm.
So yeah, what other questions do you have?
Um, I'm trying to get in touch with the person and I guess when I do get in touch with them, I want to make sure that I'm standing apart because I'm sure that there's a lot of competition out there. So I guess what advice would you have for me to help me stand apart from the competition to help close the contract?
So I would just say listen to what their needs are. So obviously they're communicating concerns that are issues for them, rutting up the lawns, not showing up. I would take note. I would go in there and say, look, tell me all of the things that your current person is doing incorrect or something that you don't like. So that way I can come here and satisfy you guys with what you need to make sure that these triplexes look amazing constantly, and we can build a long-term relationship. I want to provide great quality of services to you guys. I want to build a long-term relationship. How do we do that? Like, and just really listen to their needs and dig deeper. Like they'll be like, oh yeah, he didn't there's a lot of ruts from the big mowers, and it's like, okay, well, what else? What else? Tell me what else? Oh well, he broke sprinkler heads and never fixed them. Made the homeowners do it. Great, awesome. What else? Like I would keep trying to dig on that, and then use those to your advantage, and then come back and say, hey, look, here's why we're different than that company. Those sprinkler heads, we fix them at no cost. We break them and damage them, we cover that. No issues, no questions asked. We'll get it done. We don't use those big mowers. We use 21-inch or 30-inch push mowers, right? This is how we're different, and you can just start to build off that. Just following up with the contract is huge. Literally, I can't tell you how many times we'll send a bid. Here's the thing about commercial properties is they always get like 3 different bids.
Mhm.
So like we may be the first one that quotes it, but then we don't hear from them for 2 weeks. And it's like we're calling them every week. Hey, who's the decision maker? Get in front of them. I want to be like in front every time. Hey, what's the status? What's the status? We want to get you on our schedule. we only have limited time availability on our schedule. We only have so many team members we can get out. So I would just be in their inbox every week, calling them every week, following up with them, and just being in the back of their mind, and just showing them that you really care about that stuff, and that you're gonna do what you say. So
Got it. Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. Give me a lot of stuff to go on, and jotted down some notes. So thanks so much, Will. I appreciate you.
yeah, you're very welcome. I had one thing that I was gonna actually add on. I think it was like 2 or 3 questions ago. So I really don't think you'll have an issue with like if when you get this contract of like what days you're gonna do them. I think they'll be pretty flexible on that, and you can maybe ask them like, "Hey, how do you guys do you guys want a set date, or do you guys just want me to get here when I can throughout the week, make sure it looks good?" And most of the time, they're like, "We just want it to look good." Like um, the reason why I would really try to stray away from that strict schedule is because what you're going to be able to find with this contract is that you're going to be able to use this to your advantage. So when it rains, so like let's just say for example, you're like, hey, we're gonna be there to mow Monday and Tuesday. You give them this strict schedule, but let's say it rains Monday and Tuesday. Well, now you can't get there to mow, but what you can find is like the bushes can be trimmed in the rain.
Right.
De-weeding can be de-weeded in the rain. So literally now, when you win this contract, you have rain days and rain work. So when it rains, that's when you pull those jobs up and you get out there and you trim the bushes and you do the de-weeding. It's the best time to pull weeds is when it's soaking wet out. You don't want to do it when there's a drought. I wouldn't even really think about the beds when there's a drought, unless they're starting to look bad or whatever. But generally, it rains once every couple of weeks. So on those rain days, that's where you really want to pull that stuff up and get that other type of work done. And if that's on a Monday and Tuesday, that during your mode day or whatever, I don't know if I said that right, but
Yeah,
basically,
I understood
yeah,
you.
yeah, is now you have a flexible schedule with commercials. They're way more flexible. When it rains, we just pull all our commercial properties up and like start trimming bushes and pulling weeds. It's the
That's a
best.
great idea.
And then you're not having to send the crews home and like, you know,
Not get paid.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
cool.
but
All right. Well, thank you. That's really good information to go on to.
yeah, yeah, you're very welcome, brother. Hey, I appreciate you coming on.
Yes, sir.
So thank you so much. I think is going to help a lot of the community and everything. So
Yes,
good
sir.
luck. Let me know if you have any questions in the future. We could always do another 30-minute call down the road. And yeah, be
All right.
persistent in this contract, and and you'll do great.
I appreciate you. Thanks.
All right, you take
Yes, sir.
care.
Bye.
Bye bye.